I welcome you back to this session, which is on empirical and molecular formula. And I remind you, if at all you have any questions, feel free to contact me on those contacts which you all have. Now we continue from where we stopped. We had covered item, I think it was item 14. Now we proceed with item 15. What does item 15 say? Item 15 says that during a scientific investigation, members of senior 3 heated 2.52 grams of calcium in excess oxygen. So calcium was heated in excess oxygen to form 3.52 grams of an oxide. So calcium and oxygen to form an oxide, and that oxide is calcium oxide. However, the learners found challenges establishing the formula of the substance formed since they lack information about it even after being given atomic masses of calcium as 40, oxygen 16, and molecular mass of oxide as 56. As a learner of chemistry, help the senior 3 students to determine the formula of the oxide. Now, this is our interesting item. Now we go to our solution. I hope you've seen, this is the mass of calcium given. In excess oxygen, it was heated in excess oxygen to form 3.52 grams of an oxide. So still mass of the oxide formed is calcium oxide. And they want to determine the formula of this oxide. The oxide is made up of calcium and oxygen. So mass of calcium is given, but I don't have mass of oxygen. Hope you've taken note of that. And we have seen something similar to this in the previous item. Now I head directed to my solution. What shall we have? So the solution, here we have calcium and oxygen combining to form calcium oxide. But mass of calcium oxide, which looks like that, it does not exactly look like this. This is an assumption because we have to calculate it systematically. Now, mass of calcium has been given as this. I don't have mass of oxygen, that's why I have a question mark here, but I have mass of calcium oxide. So I can take 2.5 to the other side and obtain mass of oxygen. Therefore, mass of oxygen is 3.52 minus 2.52, and here we obtain 1 gram after subtracting. So I have mass of oxygen, I also have mass of calcium. Now I apply my rules. The first step says that, do not forget these steps. Step 1, identify and write down the symbols of elements present in the compound. I have identified those elements present in the oxide, and that is calcium and oxygen. Therefore, the elements present are calcium and oxygen. Step number 2 says that write down the percentage composition or composition by mass of each element. We have mass of calcium as 2.52 grams and mass of oxygen as 1 gram. Therefore, composition for calcium we put 2.52 and for oxygen we put 1. Step number 3 says that work out number of moles of each element by dividing the composition by dividing the composition. We divide composition by relative atomic mass of the element. So the relative atomic mass of calcium has been given. Look at that item very well. It is 40. For calcium, it is 40. So we are going to divide by 40. And for oxygen, it is 16. So we are going to divide by 16. Therefore, we shall have 2.52 over 40 and 1 over 16. And dividing 2.52 over 40, we obtain 0.63 as the moles. Then 1 over 16 we obtain 0.0625 as the moles. So this is what we have. These are the number of moles. What does the second step say? The fourth step says that determine the simplest mole ratio. Determine the simplest mole ratio by dividing the calculated moles with the smallest number of moles. So you divide with the smallest number of moles. So you look at these two. Moles obtained. Then you decide which one is small. You see we have 0.063 and 0.0625. Now, since you are excellent mathematicians, you all agree with me that this is the smallest. So we divide throughout. We divide this by the smallest, also this by the smallest. So we have 0.063 over 0.0625, and also here 0.0625 over 0.0625. And in this case, we obtain the ratio as 1:1. Therefore, since we have 1:1, then we shall have empirical formula as for calcium, we put a 1 down, and for oxygen, we put a 1, and 1 does not change anything. So this is what we obtain. So this is the empirical formula. Now, the question provided us, it did not say that. Maybe I take you back to it and you see it very well. That is 450. It says that, this is the question. It says that the molecular mass of the oxide is 56. Determine the formula, not empirical formula. Determine the formula. They want the molecular formula. They want the molecular formula of the oxide. Molecular formula of the oxide. Unless, because now here we have molecular mass. Yeah, so we have to use it. You don't stop there. Now, if you stop there, you will have incomplete scores. Now, how can we determine the molecular formula? To determine the molecular formula, hope you've taken note of these steps. For the coming items, I may not comment on them, because for the previous item in the previous video and this video, I have explained them. Yes, so I may not have to repeat them. Now we proceed with this item because we haven't completed. This is not the answer. We want the molecular formula. So what shall we have? To determine the molecular formula, we say that empirical formula times N equals molar mass. So the molar mass is given. The empirical formula, we also have it. The empirical formula is CaO, then times N. Then we equate to molecular mass, which is 56. So the issue here is to determine the value of N. So we determine the value of N here. So how can we determine the value of N? Ca, relative atomic mass of calcium, is 40, and that of oxygen is 16. So we substitute them here. We shall have 40 plus 16 times N equals 56. And 40 plus 16, that is 56, N equals 56. 56, N equals 56, we divide both sides by 56. Both sides by 56, dividing both sides by 56, we obtain N equals 1. Now we have N equals 1. We substitute back here. If we substitute back N equals 1, the molecular formula will be this now. And 1 does not affect anything, therefore, our molecular formula will be this. Note that if they give you information, on molecular mass and the item simply says that determine the formula. If the item gives you information on molecular mass and it says that determine the formula, you must determine the molecular formula. If you simply determine empirical formula alone, you get incomplete scores. So this is item 15. And mind you, these items will not necessarily appear like this. I have mentioned this severally. For me, I'm only interested in mole concept. So I have edited those items to remove those parts of categorize, properties, dangers, so that I concentrate on mole concept. But this is not how the items will look like exactly. For this session, allow me first stop here. Yeah, so we shall continue with the next item.